Yes, 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 yes. There we go. Gareth's a genius. He's a genius. I mean, I wouldn't have picked it, but he's a genius. Welcome back, viewers. It's time to have a little bit of a chat about England's 1-0 win over Croatia. It's coming home. It's coming out. Need I say more, viewers? It's coming home. Now, one interesting performance for England. One interesting team selection. Some of the players you left out. The fact that Sancho... Before we move on, why have we got two unless they're injured or carrying knocks, so maybe we'll find that out after the game, right? But unless they're injured, why are Sancho and Chilwell both not available when there's two substitute goalkeepers on the bench? I will never know. Maguire clearly not fit yet, but regardless of that, what a performance. So shout out to who scored. I'm going to use them as sort of my guide here. Kieran Trippier at left back. Who knew? Not many of us. He took 4 left backs, viewers. We all thought he was taking 4 right backs. The whole plan all along was Saka, Trippier, Chilwell and Shaw. I was surprised. I thought that Shaw seemed like the obvious candidate. The fact that Chilwell wasn't even in the squad is a bit confusing. Again, maybe they've got knocks. We don't know, right? Mings and Stones at the back. That was what many people predicted. And Kyle Walker at right back, who, while offensively, question marks, dearie me, giving the ball away the first half like he was a Croatian player. That was weird. But defensively, really, really solid. Showed why he was there, really, the experience of him being there. Again, from my prediction, I would have wanted Reece James in there maybe, but Walker defensively I thought was really solid and deserves a lot of credit for what he did at right back. The midfield 3, and I'll class them as a 3, Rice, Phillips and Mount. You can see them here. Absolutely brilliant. Goodness gracious me. We'll go through the whole team. We'll give everyone sort of a rating out of 10 before we conclude here. What I'm showing you there is the past successes of these players, and this to me was why it was so crucial for England to play with this type of trio, right? And I previously had been all for playing a sort of a Bellingham and a Henderson combination, but actually, and this is why Gareth Southgate is manager and I'm not, he picked it perfectly. There's arguments to say it didn't quite act like this. Rice was sat sometimes a little bit deeper, but later in the game, Phillips and Rice sort of sat closest to each other, and their ability to keep the ball and recycle it, and that was really impressive in the first half. The first 25 minutes, England were really good going through the game, going through the gears, and that was really impressive. And what was most satisfying about was our ability to keep the ball, which is something that I'd questioned. I didn't know if we had the players to do that, especially like this trio. And again, you'd probably include Foden in that as well. Like the pass completion of Rice, Phillips, Mount and Foden was so impressive, so good. Sterling, you kind of let off. Kane as well. It's a tough job up there. Obviously, a lot of his knockdowns and things will force opposition players, and that's where the midfielders come into it. But I thought we marshalled things really well. Let's go through the lineup then. And then talk tactically about why I think England won this game. So let's start with Jordan Pickford then, who I thought was the obvious choice to start in goal. I didn't think Henderson or Johnston, it wasn't Ramsdale in the end, was it? Johnston would ever be ousting him. And Jordan Pickford for England, it was said in commentary by BBC as well, like, he is just better for England. There's a composure to him. There's a confidence I think the other players have in him, and I think that's really important going forward in the tournament. It was a solid 7 out of 10 performance, no more, no less. It wasn't forced into making any sort of crucial saves, but was there when needed, and gave confidence to the rest of the team. At left back, let's go to him. Kieran Trippier. Again, it was a surprising option. I thought the only logical reason to have him there maybe was he knows Vasalko slightly better, of course, too. Atletico Madrid players playing in similar positions. Maybe they're quite friendly, and maybe Gareth thought, well, if we put him in that position, maybe someone that knows what Vasalko is capable of and not capable of. I guess you can decide for yourself which is more important. And defensively, looked really strong. Good in possession, played some lovely balls over the top. We were doing that brilliantly, and we'll come to Mason Mount in a moment, who was brilliant at doing that. Again, first half, really, really impressive. Right back, across to Kyle Walker with the ball. A lot of question marks over Kyle Walker, I thought, but then again, defensively, as I've said before, was really solid. Again, sort of a 6.5. I think his possession, he's got to be smarter in possession against better sides. That's going to be punished, and we're not going to get away with it. And Kyle Walker is a man who is, he's won a Premier League title this season. It's got to be better from Kyle Walker. John Stones, Tyrone Mings. The one compliment I can give the pair of them is that you could not tell that Harry Maguire wasn't there. There was a few moments, maybe one moment where Mings got caught out a little bit. Perisic closed him down, and I thought, okay, that was more nervy than it needed to be. But overall, I thought they both did really well. Mings looks incredibly composed on that left side. I think having Trippier there is a bit more of a ball-playing fullback. Helped him a lot, and John Stones looked like the John Stones I think many of us expected to see. We've made a Croatia side look impotent, and that's something that I think there's question marks over Croatia's attacking trio, right? And whether there's enough goals in that system. I think the Kovacic, Modric and Brozovic trio is there for all to see. Like, it's a very impressive trio, and there was moments where they kept the ball. I'm thinking, blimey, we've got to make sure we're a little bit tighter here, a little bit more pressure on them, and our ability to press and step away from the press I thought was really impressive. Really impressive. God, there's a comedy in these videos, not just analysis. Moving forward then, I should say as well, there's no fancy graphics for post-match reactions. Shout out to Proudy, who's editing my videos. There'll be a slightly spicier, more interesting video when I go through all the groups towards the end of the match day 1 fixtures, and that the graphics and all of that will be back, don't worry. This is Raw, viewers. You're getting it raw right now. Let's move on to Rice and Phillips then. I thought Rice put in a very, very solid 7.5 performance. Really, really good from him. I don't know if I gave Walker a rating today, 6.5, was it? Oh yeah, Mings and Stones. We'll give them both an 8. I thought clean sheet, both really impressive. Like, didn't put a foot wrong, really. So yeah, give them both 8s, why not? And on that, actually, let's give Rice an 8 as well. He had an 88% pass completion. Let's give him an 8 too. Again, it's a really solid performance from him. There were question marks over Rice for me, actually. I think many fans will hear that and think, well, why? Why? I think it's internationally, I've never quite seen the best of Declan Rice. And this was a bit of a coming of age for me. I didn't really notice him that much, and I think when you're a defensive midfielder whose job is to break things up and allow other players to flourish, he did that brilliantly. And I think Calvin Phillips next to him did excellently, and much like I gave Rice an 8 out of 10, I'm going to give Phillips, maybe not, I was going to say 9.4 because he's got a 94% pass completion. I'm going to give him a very solid 9. I thought with the ball, he was very, very good. Of course, assisted Raheem Sterling's goal. Without the ball, he knows when to press. You can tell that man has been, I was going to say drilled by Bielsa, which is an image, isn't it? But no, you can tell he has followed the instructions that he's been given at Leeds United, and he's playing a slightly different role for England than he does for Leeds, it's fair to say, and I think Leeds fans would definitely back me up on that. But his ability to cover ground at such speed and in a way which then... Basically, there's something to be said for players that when they close down, they force a player to then pass it forward. Phillips has got this great knack of, and watch it throughout the tournament for the more he features, right, of closing down and forcing players backwards. And that was really important. It gave us more time. It meant our shape was more sustained. And yeah, I thought Phillips was excellent at that. Again, we'll give him a 9 out of 10. Arguably the man of the match performance. Really, really special from him. I thought it'll be a performance that'll be remembered. From that game, I think people will talk about Calvin Phillips, and I suspect a lot of the conversation now will be about him. Mount in front, a man that hadn't played in either of the pre-tournament games, I thought also was really, really impressive. Probably my favourite player to watch this afternoon. Really, really good. With the ball, fantastic. Some of the runs he was making into channels, I've spoken about my fear that Harry Kane's dropping deeper the spaces wouldn't be filled properly, right? And Mount was prepared to make runs in channels down that left-hand side, Sterling sometimes sitting a little bit further in. And when there's no natural width on that left side with a left-footed defender, you have to have a player do that. And Mason Mount did it excellently well, superbly well, I must say. Raheem Sterling, another one really, which I thought he was in my 11, and while I had like Sancho on the other side and changing things around a little bit, Foden in there as well, playing a more central role, I think Sterling is pivotal to this, right? I said before that England don't have a Heung-Min Min, right? They don't have that player, but Raheem Sterling is probably the closest we come. Marcus Rashford is there as well, but someone who sort of lurks on the last line of a defence and drags players a little bit all over the place, and at the same time integrates himself with the full back behind him. Sterling does that really well, and his combination play with Kane wasn't that evident in this game. Like, we can't pretend it was, but I think the ability for Sterling to move into those spaces and to create space for other people is what makes him so important, right? And I think getting the goal is crucial for his confidence. For me, it's his first goal in international tournaments ever, so that's something to be said. And again, I think the way in which he moved into the space that was created, the run from Phillips was fantastic, but Sterling's movement into the space was really, really impressive. And yeah, the finish, it wasn't the cleanest of finish, but I don't care. It went into the back of the net. And Sterling, aside from that, I thought on the ball, he seemed a little bit frantic at times. I think he needed a little bit more support. I think that he needs to get closer to Harry Kane. To me, there was a little bit of a disconnect between Sterling and Kane. And the closer those two are together, the better we'll see things, I think. And also, again, they're two of our like star players, right, by all accounts. If you have Sterling and Kane closer, you are creating so much more space for other players. Players like Foden, players like Mount, players like Grealish when he comes into the side, and Rashford when he's brought on, and things like that. I'd like to see those two intertwine a little closer. I felt like there were points today where England, especially offensively, I thought there were lots of positives, right? But I thought they were a little bit disconnected in those forward areas. I thought the midfield three was passing it around lovely. Again, connecting with the back four, full-backs and all that. But in forward areas, there has to be a bit more of a process when it comes to keeping it and then making something of that as well. Right? You can't just keep it and then it come to nothing. And that was happening a few too many times for me in the first half. On the right-hand side, Phil Foden had that great chance early on. Then he hit the post, and I think it deflected onto the post, but the camera angle didn't show that, so let's pretend it didn't. But overall, I thought a really assured performance. Again, we forget Phil Foden is a pretty much a newbie to this England side. He's a youngster that's not played at this level very regularly. Of course, he plays at a high level for City, but in an international competition at Wembley, the pressure's on. I thought he did fine. The 95% pass completion, which I'm very much focusing on right now, I thought was really impressive. You can see dribbles-wise, he wasn't the marauding Phil Foden that I think I really like to see when it comes to how he plays for Manchester City sometimes. His ability to pick the ball up and drive with it, right? You can see Phillips had the most. In a side with Sterling and Foden and Mount, you'd maybe not assume Phillips would be that guy. But he seemed to be. Again, really, really impressive as I flick through a few more of the stats. I don't know if I give ratings here. Mount, I'd go for a sort of a solid 8 again. I thought he was good. Sterling, probably a 7, although he got the goal. I thought could have been a little bit more from him. Foden 7.5, sort of in between the two, I would say. Kane, probably a solid sort of 7 as well. Did well, had a chance, could have scored. Thought he'd broken a rib, so I think he's okay. But that was one little bit that was terrifying. You see, shots wise, Kane will have more chances in sides that are slightly lesser, right? I think there was a focus on Kane today of his job was to very much bring others into play and also allow. It's almost like, and this is a weird thing to say, and if you're Football Manager fans, which I know a lot of you that watch are, he's almost like a central Ramdeuter, Kane. In that, so the idea of a Ramdeuter is that Thomas Muller sort of space investigator style player. And Kane was doing that a lot, and sometimes it would leave him in spaces where he wasn't utilised properly, and sometimes he wouldn't be in position to maybe get a shot off or be available for a pass. But again, what he's doing is creating space for others, and it was so. If you want an example of it, watch what Kane does when Sterling runs through and slots the ball into the back of the net. That's the kind of thing we need to see more of. And yeah, I was really, really impressed with the overall team and how Southgate has managed quickly to get them to understand an idea of how we should play. Like I tweeted out before the game, I was worried about our press and how if we weren't doing it at the right times, we would come unstuck really easily because Croatia are smart enough and good enough in those central areas to dot it around. And even though their attacking lineup isn't considered to be like an elite attacking lineup, especially when you consider some of the other ones in the Euros right now, they have the ability still. Like Luka Modric, I wouldn't say he ran the show, but I think there's this feeling, isn't there? It's almost like Pirlo at Italy a few years ago, that when he's on the ball, there's this idea of, oh God, he's going to do something fantastic, and we can't do very much about that. But yeah, it never really seems to happen, right? You're looking here, total shots for Croatia, they had 8 total. Do you remember any of like real note? They had a couple that whistled wide. I think Modric had one from the edge of the box that Pickford saved quite comfortably. I think Brozovic had a sort of a corner from Modric that he lashed at goal, but they had nothing particularly clear. And I'll give a lot of credit to Rice, to Mings, to Stones and Walker as well, actually, that I thought defensively handled Croatia really well. I think I said it in my video, sort of previewing the Euros a little bit, that I don't think Croatia are the same side that they were a few years ago. I think they are getting a little, not really old. I think Modric is the one people think that Brozovic and Modric and Kovacic are all the same age. They're not. Modric is slightly older. But there wasn't that energy from Croatia. There wasn't the same level of tempo. There wasn't that crispness. I don't know. I felt like they missed Mandzukic a little bit. Of course, who's been there for them a lot of the time. He's a bit more of a, I was going to say a planet sort of, go round. But yeah, so I think they'll be disappointed. I think they could have offered a little bit more. And I think from England, it's the perfect opening to a group game. I don't think it's set the tournament alight. I don't think many people will be tipping England to win it from there. But I think it's so important to win your first group game and give yourself that platform to build off. And again, I think Sterling getting the goal is massive for him. We could see a real breakout tournament for Sterling in terms of the international stage. And that's something that really excites me. Who was your man of the match in the entire game? Let me know your thoughts and team selection. Coming up, England have got 2 interesting games against Scotland and against the Czech Republic. I think the team will be changed dramatically. I'll probably make a video on that before we play our next group games. I'll give you my 11 for those and we'll see how things change. But yeah, an assured performance. My man of the match, Calvin Phillips. How can it be anyone else? Really, really assured performance. You wouldn't have known that was one of his first sort of 5 or 6 England games. Yeah, Really, really impressive. And long may this continue. Gareth, ultimately, got it right. Although I would have liked to see Sancho or Chilwell on the bench ahead of a third goalkeeper. And the media need to ask him about that, because this is fine when we win, but if we don't win and we don't give ourselves those options because we've got 2 goalkeepers on the bench, yeah, then it could come back to bite you, Gareth. But overall, I'm happy it's coming home. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Make sure you subscribe. Lots more Euros content coming your way, as well as all my Football Manager stuff. And I'll see you again very, very soon. Goodbye. Again, sorry about the lack of graphics. I'll be back when I've got more time. This is a post-match reaction. Come on. And I should say as well, thank you for the support on these videos. It's something completely different for me. So if you are leaving likes, you are subscribing to watch more of this sort of thing, it does mean a lot. Trying something different. Hopefully you enjoy my analysis. Yeah, give me some thoughts in the comment section. I'd love to have a read of them.